to call to order the Wednesday, August 2nd, 6:30 p.m. meeting to order. Can I have a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, can I have roll call, please?
Rebecca Smith.
Here.
Rashad Bates.
Here.
Tiffani Hendley. Dustin Queenan.
Here.
Lauren Hughes.
Here.
Heather Lewis. Thomas LaPera.
Here. Can I have a motion to approve the previous minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. We did not have an executive session tonight. Councilwoman Smith, any announcements?
Yes. After 2 years of renovation, as of August 8th, Municipal Hall will have an address change back to our old building that's newly renovated at 235 East Erie Street. The building's going to be much better organized to support customer service, so we encourage you to stop on by after August 8th. On Saturday, August 19th, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., we will be having Norristown's very first street food festival with area food, restaurant vendors, and trucks. That'll be at Von C. Brewing, again on August 19th. There is a flyer over there for that, and also an application for vendors if you would like to participate in that event as a vendor. And our summer concert series continues for the summer, with our next concert being Deja Groove on August 6th. Anybody else have any announcements?
Thank you. Madam Secretary, are there any public comment?
Yes. Matthew Ritz.
So my name is Matthew Ritz, and I've lived at 450 Forest Avenue for about 2 years now. I know it's a few months late, but I'd like to talk about Housing First as a possible solution to Norristown's homelessness problem. In traditional housing programs, homeless people first have to clear several hurdles before they can be placed into housing, such as by showing that they're sober and not on drugs. Kind of a carrot and stick approach into turning them into healthy and productive citizens. The problem is, that approach doesn't really work very well. If it did, we wouldn't have this problem in the first place. Housing First programs, on the other hand, turn that approach on its head. Instead of mandating that people first clean up their lives before getting housing, Housing First gives them permanent and stable housing first. Once people are stably housed, then the programs offer them the choice to participate in programs to get off of drugs, to receive mental health treatment, and to get jobs, and in all other ways become the healthy and productive citizens that they can be. As it turns out, people are far more willing to enter into rehabilitation programs, use mental health resources, and take steps needed to become productive citizens when they don't feel like they're being forced to. Furthermore, people don't do drugs because they're happy with their lives. They do them because they're not happy with their lives. When your life just isn't pleasant, you're going to see drugs as much more appealing than if your life is happy. You want to get people off of drugs? You want them to get jobs and become productive, tax-paying citizens of Norristown? You can make sure that happens. Give them housing, give them hope, they'll surprise you. Getting people into stable housing helps them to feel like they have control over their lives and like things are starting to look better for them, which helps a lot with quitting drugs. In fact, Housing First is so effective at reducing homelessness and the problems associated with it that in many cases, compared to traditional housing programs, it actually saves more taxpayers' money than it costs due to reduced usage of emergency services, such as hospital visits and emergency or temporary shelters. Yes, it does cost a lot to build housing, and that is necessary for Housing First. But in the long run, you can save Norristown a lot of taxpayers' money by investing into housing the homeless. Get more housing built, partner with the Housing First organization to start fixing the homelessness problem in Norristown, and you'll be making Norristown a nicer place to live, helping people, and saving taxpayers money. Thank you. Oh, also, I have
Thank you, Mr. Fritz, and I'm glad you brought that up, and I usually don't comment on public comments, but Housing First is something that has worked all around the country, especially in Houston, reducing it by 60%, I think, at the time. And I appreciate it if you bring these comments to the county, who is the one that could actually implement Housing First. Thank you very much.
That's it.
Anybody else in the crowd that would like to make public comment that did not sign up? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Mike Ford, and I'm a pastor here in the area, pastor of Christ Supreme Church, and I'm sorry to get in early enough, but I do have some flyers on the side for our street fest that's happening on August 19th. It's going to be a free gathering, free food, free concert, free everything for the community on August 19th. Also on August 25th, the last Saturday of the month, we have a music night at Lady T's. Over on I think it's 312 Johnson Highway, and it's a music night. It's just a fun time for the community to get together, hear some good music, enjoy each other, and just love on the community. All right, so August 19th and August 25th, we have some free, wonderful events for you all to come to. If you want some information, like I said, it's over on the table over there, and you could get it when you go out. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll move on to Planning and Municipal Development for a request for conditional use for the grant at Main and DeKalb. I guess I will, at this time, I'll make a
motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
And I'll say some things and then turn it over to Mark. Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just for the public's edification and everybody here, on July 18th, council met, opened a public hearing for this matter that we have here, the application DAG Main DeKalb LLC, an affiliate MMP Partners LLC. I went ahead and marked some exhibits, of which that were all entered into the record related to the advertisement, the application, all those kind of things. The applicant at the time, I also entered this into the record, made a request that this be continued to this date here. We continued that hearing on the record, so there's no advertising issue related to that, to this date and time. And what I'll do is, Mr. Kaplan here, who represents the applicant, went ahead and gave me a very nice book of exhibits. I'm going to have these marked as A, applicant Exhibit A 1 through 7, lines up with his tabs that he has right there, and we'll put those in the record. And at this also, too, I had a preliminary discussion with Mr. Kaplan. He asked me if council would be okay with what's called an offer of proof. An offer of proof is Mr. Kaplan would basically summarize what some of the witnesses would say. If you had additional questions and you weren't happy with that summary, you of course could ask him. You can bring that witness up, not meant to circumvent anything, but we know council has a good idea about this presentation, and there will be a presentation about the application, but just to save some time, because he has to legally check some box and mark things in the record, it would just save some time to do that. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kaplan.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean. Pardon me. Good evening. My name is Mark Kaplan, and I'm the attorney for the applicant, DAJ Main DeKalb LLC, which is an affiliate of M&M Partners LLC. They collectively are the applicant in tonight's conditional use application and are the equitable owner of the property that is the subject of the conditional use application that is before council this evening. As described in great detail in our application and the other submittal materials, we are seeking conditional use approval to develop the property with what we call the Grand at Main and DeKalb, a residential mixed-use development containing a mix of studio, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and with approximately 11,000 square feet of commercial space. Just to give a little bit of background, the property is comprised of 12 separate parcels and is located northwest of the intersection of Main and DeKalb Street in Norristown. The property is a corner lot and contains a gross area of approximately 0.839 acres, approximately 36,500 square feet. And Chris has put up on the board some recent photographs of the lot, and as you can see, the Justice Center that's being built to the west. Pursuant to Norristown Borough zoning ordinance and zoning map, the property is zoned within the town center zoning district. A portion of the borough zoning map confirming the town center district zoning of the property is included in the exhibit binder. I've not only given one to Sean, but I've given one to each member of council and to Crandall. So if you need to, take a look at Exhibit A2, and that just confirms the zoning, and I think we all know that that's what it is. The property was acquired by the Montgomery County Redevelopment Authority for purposes of redeveloping the property in accordance with the Pennsylvania Urban Redevelopment Law. It is located within the boundaries of the redevelopment area known as, quote, Washington/Markley Corridor Redevelopment Area, Municipality of Norristown, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, as described in the redevelopment area plan that was prepared by the RDA, the Redevelopment Authority, and its consultants Mullen and Lonergan Associates, and that's dated back in 2018. On November 9, 2020, the Redevelopment Authority, in conjunction with the municipality, issued a request for proposals for the property, seeking a qualified developer to acquire, design, finance, construct, manage, and market the property for ground-up infill development. On March 1 of 2021, we submitted to the RDA our response to the request for proposals for the property, proposing, as I've said, the Grand at Main and DeKalb, and we're going to get into a description of that. The project has got a focus of activating Main Street and acting as a gateway to the commercial corridor. Our proposal was presented to the Norristown Planning Commission, which recommended approval of the proposal. August 10th of 2021 was formally approved by council on September 7, 2021, and the Redevelopment Authority formally approved the award of the project on October 14th, 2021. We then spent a good deal of time negotiating an agreement of sale so that there would be no questions on either side as what was to be expected, and the agreement of sale incorporates the requirements that the development be basically as set forth in the proposal. Jumping ahead, on June 9 of this year, we filed with the municipality an application for conditional use approval to permit the Grand at Main and DeKalb as a proposed 7-story mixed-use development, and that's provided for it's permitted by conditional use approval pursuant to Section 320-129D, paren 3 of the Norristown zoning ordinance, provided that all dwelling units are located on the second floor and above. And Chris has got the rendering of the proposed building up on the screen. And I think I ad-lib a little and say I'm pleased to say that that is virtually identical to the proposal that we submitted, I guess it's going on 2.5 years ago. Now, a copy of the conditional use application as filed is included in the binder as Exhibit A1. At Exhibit A1A, you'll find a copy of the deed to the property confirming that this property is owned by the Redevelopment Authority. And Exhibit A1B, you will find a copy of the redacted agreement of sale between the Redevelopment Authority and my client, and that's submitted as evidence to my client standing to proceed with this application. At Exhibit A1C is a copy of ALTA land title survey of the property prepared by Smith Geospatial LLC, which depicts the existing conditions of the property. Subsequent to the filing of the application, we received a conditional use review letter dated July 5, 2023, issued by Pannoni Associates, the municipality's engineer. A copy of that letter, the conditional use review letter, is in the exhibit binder marked as Exhibit A3. Item number 3 in the review letter states as follows. High-rise apartment houses, provided all dwellings are located on the second floor and above, are permitted only by conditional use, and it refers to Section 320-129D2. And then it explains this comment by saying the project is proposing a 7-story building, 85 feet, with apartments on the second floor through the 7th floor and commercial on the 1st floor. The request for a conditional use shall be revised to indicate the above code section rather than 320-190D3 that is referenced in the conditional use application. On July 17th, we submitted the letter to the borough requesting to amend the application to request conditional use approval in accordance with Section 320-129D2 of the borough zoning ordinance to permit high-rise apartment house in the borough's TC Town Center District, in addition to our original conditional use application in accordance with 320-129D3, which permits a residential mixed use in the TC district. This is really just technical cleanup stuff. Copy of the letter amending our requested conditional use is included in the binder at Exhibit A4. And significantly, the Pannoni review letter does not identify any areas of the project as being non-compliant with any of the specific criteria contained in the zoning ordinance. So that is the proposal that is before you tonight. And as I said before, the design was approved by this council in September of 2021 and is almost identical. So I'm going to now give you a lot of background about the building that I would normally call up the architect, the engineer, the traffic engineer, but I think that in the interest of saving everybody time, I will try not to bore you with all this information, and you'll feel free to ask questions because I've got an army of consultants back there who are here to answer.
And there's one thing I forgot, Mark, to clean up. At the first hearing I asked, is because this is conditional use, which is akin to a special exception for the zoning hearing board, I explained what asking for party status was. I put on the record nobody had asked for party status. I'll just briefly explain it again because I see new people here. Party status is, so you're about to comment after this hearing. You'll hear council comments. There'll probably be some back and forth and some questions. Anyone has the ability to comment. Party status is a different level. Party status is the ability to cross-examine some of Mr. Kaplan's witnesses, the ability to call your own witnesses, and what I'd have to do is basically ask, how you would be affected by this development. Usually the standard is a community group could be recognized, and/or if you're within a mailing radius of 500 feet, usually get recognized for party status depending on the situation. Just want to see, again, you are going to be able to comment regardless if you have party status or not. Just wanted to see, is anybody requesting party status? Okay, I see no one. Let's turn it back to Mr. Kaplan.
Thank you. Let's start with an amenity deck. An amenity deck and an amenity suite complete with co-working spaces, private meeting rooms for residents of the building. The amenity suite includes a 964 square foot fitness center and a 926 square foot lounge. Large expanses of storefront and wide canopies aim to attract premier commercial tenants to the 11,670 square feet of commercial space are proposed along the first floor along Main Street. There will be a ground floor residential lobby area on DeKalb Street, a little bit up the hill, by which residents of the building would access their apartments and the rest of the building. The ground floor of the proposed building also includes a community lounge, mail and package rooms, and a bicycle storage space. And then a rooftop deck with a lobby area is included in the building. So that's the general description of the building. Chris, come back to the overall perspective so that, So you can see that we've got a lot of glass along the first floor, really floor to ceiling. That's the commercial area. I believe that the second floor is where the amenity deck and the other things that I've talked about are located. And then there's up to 122 apartments. I think our original application was somewhere around 117. We're going to ultimately be somewhere between that and 122. That really will be determined by the mix of units. If we have more one bedrooms than two bedrooms, then we'll have less overall units. But it will be in that range as we proposed early on. We'll have to see what the market would be. So let me run down some of the site improvements. We've got at-grade greenscaping areas, streetscape improvements such as street trees and sidewalks along Main Street and DeKalb frontage. There will be a stormwater management system in the property. We have committed to something called a green roof that is supposed to absorb rain and really have it evaporate or used in the vegetation that's in the green roof, and thereby minimize or reduce the amount of stormwater runoff. Now, the commercial space in the first floor will only be used by uses that are permitted in the town center district. However, we spent a great deal of time back and forth with the redevelopment authority and council on some of the uses that will not be permitted that we didn't think were appropriate, even though they may be appropriate in some other places in the town center district. So the agreement of sale has got specific provisions. There's still a wide range of commercial uses permitted. Now, I hesitate to introduce this now, but I think it would probably be a good idea. There are two minor items, design criteria, which we do not think we should comply with and I will try to explain them. And Kevin or John, if I screw this up, just stand up and help me. First, the ground floor commercial space will be served by one 15-foot by 27-foot loading area located to the rear of the commercial space. And Chris, you got your hand on it, you got, yeah, right there, that's the loading area. However, under section 320.311A14 of the zoning ordinance, the proposed development is technically required to provide 3 off-street loading berths of 15 feet by 50. However, section 320.311A6 of the zoning ordinance provides that where it can be demonstrated that loading and unloading will only be performed by small trucks or vans, the loading berth size may be reduced by agreement. The approved plan shall contain a note which so restricts the type of loading to be permitted, and subsequent uses shall be restricted as necessary. And the loading comes in up on the upper right-hand corner in DeKalb, and that's like an archway there. And we don't expect there to be big trucks coming in here, nor do we anticipate with only 11,000 square feet or 11,600 square feet of commercial space that we would need more than one loading dock. And we'd rather maximize the number of parking spaces rather than give away another, rather than create another loading dock.
Was this issue, Mr. Kaplan, raised in one of the Pannoni review letters? Is that where this came from?
No, the Pannoni review letter, Kevin, Sean, was really at a conditional use stage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really getting into design.
Right.
I'm farther along, but I wanted everybody to hear because I'm saying that it complies with everything, and we think it does. We've got this item, and we've got, there's a glass requirement that doesn't make sense in a couple of locations where we're up against the wall on that far western end. Yeah, along there, we back right up to that's the, what do you call it? The new
Justice Center.
Yeah, the Justice Center. So putting a lot of glass there doesn't make sense. And along, we've got some elevator towers that we also don't think should be required to meet the glazing requirement. Let me go back to my notes and I'll try and be more specific on that. So we're asking, and it may be the wrong time, but you'll keep in mind that we've asked for dispensation under that provision that I referred to, that we have one loading space instead of 3. Now, the other item relates to a design requiring applicable to a development in the town center district. Specifically, section 320.132G requires a minimum window area of 30% and a maximum window area of 70% along any exterior wall facing a street, a parking lot, or a pedestrian walkway. The proposed building is proposing window area of 20.7% along the northwest elevation and 23.3 along the northeast elevation, where these portions of the building would face parking lot and the walls of the adjacent Justice Center, and the requirement, and where the requirement of section 320.132G would also require that these window areas be placed in internal stairwells. Kevin or John, you guys understand this better than I. Could one of you stand up and explain what the dispensation that we're asking for here?
Can you just state your name, too, please?
Sure. John Marshall. I'm the principal architect for Marshall 17 Architecture. So I think Mark did a very good job explaining it, especially with the language of the ordinance for the conditional use. But so this elevation isn't what we're referring to. This is the elevation along Main Street. This is the elevation along DeKalb. We're referring to the internal parking area that we're providing above and beyond what's actually required for the zoning district. And these are windows that are for the units. And so towards the right on this elevation is actually a party wall that's on the property line. So you're not permitted to have windows there, and that's the wall that's facing the Justice Center. So on this side here is, again, this is the wall that would be the hatched area at the lower bottom on the left-hand side. There is actually the drive-through that gets you to the parking area. There will be windows inside that area for the lobby. We didn't calculate that because we're actually looking at just what the exterior is. But again, we're looking at all the windows that are from that portion over to the right. The vertical hatched area in there, that's a stair tower. So there's no windows currently in there. So as you can see by the percentages that Mark had quoted in there, we're close to what's being requested for what a parking area is. These are, it's really a private parking area. It's not a facing in the public way.
So those are the two issues that we want council to be aware of. We're not asking for anybody to approve that at this point in the presentation, but again, I wanted to make sure that you had all of the information. Thanks, John.
Sure.
This development was presented to the Norristown Planning Commission on July 11, 2023, and I believe we received unanimous recommendation. We were at the Historical Architectural Review Board last week, and give me the DeKalb, okay. And the HARB board was very pleased with what we're doing. There was a suggestion from one of the members that that big white space on the right side, we add some treatment to it, and we're going to figure it out. We think he was right. That's the area where vehicles will come in and come out. So it needs to remain relatively free. It needs to have a certain height for trucks. But we believe that the gentleman I believe it was an architect on the board, was right, and we can spruce that up, and we will do so in the design process. So the first area I'm going to talk about that would normally be spoken to by witnesses would be my master audiovisual boss up there, Chris Pacello, who is, and I'm going to tell you what he would say. So DAJ Main DeKalb Inc. is an affiliate of Partners LLC, and that's important because that's a requirement of our agreement of sale. And Partners and MAG are the equitable owners of the property for the reasons I said before. Chris is the director of construction for Partners and is the project director for this project. MAJ, Main DeKalb, is proposing to develop the property with the Grand at Main and DeKalb, 7-story residential development containing a mix of studios, 1 and 2 bedroom units, and 11,670 square feet of commercial. The ground floor commercial space will be served by one 15 by 27 foot loading area located in the rear. The loading and unloading will only be performed by small trucks or vans, thus the loading berth size and the number proposed is sufficient to serve the commercial space. Chris, you heard what I just said, and if I called you to testify, would you testify consistent with what I just said?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Let's go to John Grant, professional engineer. He's with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. And Chris has put up the one plan in our set that at this point has been prepared by the engineers. So if I were to call John, he would tell you that he's a licensed professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with experience in designing conditional use and other such land development plans. He is the civil engineer for the Grand at Maine and DeKalb, which is the subject of this conditional use application. And he prepared or supervised the preparation of the one-sheet conditional use plan that's up on the board or up on the screen, entitled The Grand at Maine and DeKalb, Norristown, PA, prepared by Stantec Consulting Services, Inc., dated June 9, 2023, that was filed with the application and is marked in the exhibit binder as Exhibit A5. Mr. Grant would confirm that after submission of the application, this conditional use plan was updated to reflect that the property is zoned within the municipality's town center district and not in the R1 residential district. He would testify that the property is located within Norristown's town center district. The property is located at the corner of Main and DeKalb in the municipality. It is comprised of 12 separate parcels and contains a gross lot area of approximately 0.839 acres or 36,581 square feet. In this application, conditional use approval is sought under Section 320, 129D2, and 129D3 of the Norristown zoning ordinance to permit the development of the property for the proposed residential mixed use with a high-rise apartment house. He would also testify that as demonstrated by the conditional use plan, the proposed development complies with all of the applicable dimensional criteria of the zoning ordinance for development in the town center district set forth in 130A. Sean, I'm going to break here. I've got a long list of individual sections.
Sure.
And I don't think we need to read each one of them unless you think that, we do have to check the box, but I think that in light of the Pannoni review letter, it doesn't find any deficiencies. I would have John testify that the proposed building complies with all of the dimensional criteria of Section 320-130, subsections A through G, and that those sections deal with lot area, lot width, building coverage, yard requirements, meeting a build-to line, proposing a maximum height and a minimum height, and he would testify that all of those criteria are also complied with. Now, I would like to go on with regard to off-street parking and loading of Section 320-131. Mr. Grant would confirm that this development is a transit-oriented development and that the Norristown Transportation Center is located approximately 750 feet to the south of the property. This places the property in very close proximity to the SEPTA regional rail the Manioc-Norristown line, the SEPTA Regional Rail, the Norristown High-Speed Line, and 8 separate SEPTA bus routes. Mr. Grant would further confirm that there are sidewalks in all of the roadway areas surrounding the property and that these sidewalks provide direct connection to other sidewalk networks within Norristown, Bridgeport, and the Schuylkill River Trail. The Schuylkill River Trail leads to the city of Philadelphia to the south and Parker Ford to the north. Mr. Grant would confirm that this is not meant to be a vehicular dependent development, but has been designed to utilize the extensive public transportation and sidewalk systems in the vicinity of the property. He would further confirm that under Section 320, 131A1, the off-street parking regulations, including the requirements for a minimum number of parking spaces, as detailed in Article 26 of the zoning ordinance, do not apply to the development in the town center district. However, as shown on the exhibits that Chris has in front of us, the proposed development will be served by 28 off-street parking spaces, 2 ADA parking spaces, and 2 temporary parking stalls. So hit them with that's the 2 temporary parking stalls when people would come in to drop something off or possibly a potential tenant or something like that. There's also ADA spaces. And then we have, I believe, 28 total number of spaces. Mr. Grant would also confirm that as required by 320, 131A, 4, paren A, and B of the zoning ordinance, the parking area has not been located between the front facade of the proposed building and the adjacent street, nor does the parking area extend for more than 70 feet in width along any public streets. As you can see, the parking is tucked in to the back and the side of the building. He would also confirm that as required by Section 320, 131A2 of the zoning ordinance, adequate provision to accommodate the off-street loading requirements of the proposed development have been provided in the form of the one loading dock at 15 feet by 27 feet that I talked about, located in the rear of the building. And I believe finally, as required by 320-66 of the zoning ordinance, the proposed development will be served by public water and sewage facilities. And on a general basis, Mr. Grant would further confirm that the grant at Main and DeKalb has been designed in accordance with the legislative intent of the TC district as stated in Section 320, 128 of the zoning ordinance by buffering the parking lots from public streets and sidewalks, and by preserving the existing sidewalk by designing the proposed building to be built to the edge of the public sidewalk, the so-called build-to line. Mr. Grant, John, you heard what I said. If I were to ask you all of those questions, would your testimony be the same as what I have just said?
Yes, it would.
Great.
Was he sworn in?
I don't, but
Yeah,
it's a good idea, good idea.
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, and that you've already given.
I do.
And do you want the other gentleman also?
Good idea. Chris is up there.
Chris can do it now.
Do you swear the testimony you have given and are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
And John, do you?
And
And we have one more, I
do you
guess.
swear the
Okay,
testimony
yeah.
you've given and are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. And John, do you adopt my testimony as your testimony?
I do.
And do you have any changes, additions, or clarifications that you would like to make relative to all of that material I spewed out?
No, I think that was very thorough.
Okay, thank you. I trained him to. Okay, let's go on to the architectural part of this. And here I may need more help, but let's see if I can get through this. If I were to call Mr. Marshall, he would tell us that he is a registered architect in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. He is the project engineer for the Grand at Main and DeKalb, which is the subject of this conditional use application. He prepared or supervised the preparation of the floor plans, elevations, renderings that were prepared by Marshall Sabatini, PC, consisting of 12 sheets that was filed with the application and is marked in the exhibit binder as Exhibit A6. He would also confirm that the proposed development has been designed to comply with the architectural and site design standards of Section 320-122. John, I think it's better if you describe the architecture than if I read from this, because you understand it better than I. So if you want to come up here and go through it, we'd appreciate it. Okay.
So the preliminary architectural elevations for the proposed development were prepared by our firm, myself supervised as the registered architect, and were submitted with the conditional use as required by Section 320-132A. These architectural elevations illustrate the general design, character, and materials for facades of buildings visible from public streets, walkways, and other lands available for public use. The architectural design of the proposed building features a variety of roof lines and treatments as viewed from public streets.
Slow down a little bit. A variety of what?
Oh, slow down, sorry. Where's that? Variety of roof lines and treatments as viewed from public use, or from public streets, walkways, and other such lands available for public use. The proposed building does not have the appearance of a large monolithic structure, but instead gives the appearance of several connected smaller buildings. The walls of the proposed building do not have an unbroken single appearance for more than 75 feet on the average in the horizontal length, and variations in materials, colors, and textures, overhang setbacks, and of at least 5 feet. Display windows and/or entranceways have been utilized to provide visual interest in accordance with the requirements of Section 320-132B. The front facades of the proposed building are oriented towards Main Street and DeKalb Street, with everyday entrances provided along these streets. These entrances have also been accentuated with a variety of accents, including protruding canopy and/or overhang accents, as required by Section 320-132C and Section 320-132D of the zoning ordinance. The proposed building is articulated and subdivided into vertical and horizontal massing that is more or less proportional to adjacent structures and maintains the existing architectural rhythm on the block as required by Section 320-132E of the zoning ordinance. The proposed building has no blank walls along any exterior walls facing streets, parking areas, or pedestrian walkways, and these building walls provide windows areas of 32.2% along DeKalb Pike and 36% along Main Street, where the minimum window area of 30% and the maximum window area of 70% is required by 320-132G.
So let me pick it up here. As I noted in my opening, John would confirm that Section 320-132G requires the minimum, well, I don't think we have to go over this again. This is with regard to the glazing requirements.
Correct.
And I think we've laid that out pretty well. Now, there are, again, a number of objective criteria that are listed in Section 320-131, and they go from F, G, H, I, J, K, and does this design comply with all of those objective criteria?
Yes, it does.
Without reading through it, just give us a broad idea of what we're talking about.
Well, do you want me to cite each of these?
No, I just
Well, I
want
know, I'm just saying,
I'm trying to avoid putting everybody to sleep. So,
Well, yeah, I'll just hit the bullet points, I guess. Again, primarily what I just stated, how the facades are, they're broken. There's not, it's not a monolithic look. As you can see, with the materials, we are trying to, create, I guess some variety of styles with the building itself. The one style on the far right of this, I'll just look at this little swatch, is kind of giving it a flavor of a warehouse structure. Then to the left there is how it's breaking up with the cornices and the precast materials to kind of delineate what the commercial spaces are, with the larger windows on the ground floor, the residential with the smaller windows above, and then stepping back the building to break up the facade as well.
okay. And again, just as I asked or I spoke for Mr. Grant, John would testify that the grant at Maine and DeKalb has been designed in accordance with the legislative intent of the TC district as related in Section 321-28 of the zoning ordinance by assisting in revitalization of downtown Norristown by utilizing traditional building materials and accepted principles of urban design. And to the extent that I testified for you, was it accurate?
Yes.
And is it you adopted as your testimony?
I do.
Thank you. So we have one more, I believe we have one more witness. That would be Nicole Klein-Elser, professional engineer with McMahon, the traffic consultants. And if I called Nicole, she would tell us that
And
she's...
is Nicole been Nicole?
Yeah, did we swear Nicole?
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
And just spell your name for me, please.
Nicole, Nicole, Klein, Kline, Elsier, Elsier.
Thank you.
Nicole is a licensed professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. She's also a professional transportation operations engineer. And Ms. Klein would confirm that she prepared and oversaw in the presentation of the traffic impact study for the grant at Maine and DeKalb, which was filed with the conditional use application on June 9, 2023, and is included in the book as Exhibit 7. In fact, it's probably the thickest exhibit we have. She would confirm that she prepared the traffic study in accordance with the requirements of Section 320-265A1 of the ordinance. That's the requirements of the Norristown subdivision and land development ordinance and PennDOT's guidelines, as this is we have PennDOT streets here. Access to the proposed building would be provided via one left-in, left-out access onto DeKalb Street, which will provide access to the residential parking lot. Ms. Klein evaluated the existing weekday morning, weekday afternoon, and Saturday midday peak hours as well as the future 2026 build-out year, both with and without the development. And she did this at the intersections of DeKalb and Main Street, DeKalb and East Airy, and DeKalb and the proposed site access. She would confirm that the proposed development will generate a total of approximately 54, quote, new vehicle trips during the weekday morning peak hour, 67 new vehicle trips during the weekday afternoon peak hour, and 69 new vehicle trips during the Saturday midday peak hour. She would testify that these vehicle trips include what's called pass-by reductions for the proposed commercial retail uses and what's called internalization reductions between the complementary residential and commercial uses, and transportation reductions due to the close proximity to the Norristown Transportation Center. Nicole, I think I botched that, so why don't you explain to everybody what I was trying to say about the reductions in overall trips because of internalization, pass-by trips, and the closeness of the transportation services.
Sure, happy to explain. I think Mark did a great job of summarizing it in kind of our, traffic impact study language, but I could put it in layman's terms. So when we talk about pass-by traffic, that's for the commercial use. So these types, the types of commercial uses that will go into this space, they're going to draw most of their patrons from people who are already traveling in the corridor. Either they're already traveling as a vehicle trip and they're going to make this a part of their stop on their way to work, on the way to drop kids off at school, etc., or they're walking or biking past the site and they simply make it an additional stop. So we take a reduction for that because it's not a new trip that's being added to the road network. And then when we talk about internalization, obviously there will be a strong connection between the residential use in the building and the commercial use in the building. So they will, mutually, share, patronage, from the residential, obviously, to the commercial space. If there's a coffee shop, those types of things, the residents will rely heavily on that. So we take a reduction for those internal trips that happen between complementary uses. And then the transit reduction, I think, is obvious. There will be less passenger vehicle trips because this site is located in close proximity to so much public transit. So we take a pretty modest reduction there. We like to be conservative or estimate our, keep our trips a little higher than what we think they'll be. But we did take a modest reduction for transit. I believe it will actually be larger than what we assumed.
And Nicole would testify that as described in the traffic impact study, in the future with the proposed development, all of the studied intersections, the 3 studied intersections, will operate at acceptable levels of service of C or better, and the overall and the traffic operations will satisfy the requirements of the ordinance criteria and demonstrate that off-site mitigation improvements are not required by the PennDOT requirement. And I think, as she just said, but I think it's important to repeat it, Nicole would confirm that as a transit-oriented and mixed-use development, the close proximity to the regional rail and the SEPTA bus transit station, as well as the interaction between complementary uses within a developed or developing downtown, will yield additional walking, biking, and transit trips, and therefore less vehicular trips compared to a non-transit oriented development. She would tell us that since DeKalb Pike, DeKalb Street is a state road, the proposed site access along DeKalb Street will require the review and approval of PennDOT, and we will have to obtain a highway occupancy permit. Finally, I think she would confirm that the traffic analysis in the traffic impact study revealed that efficient access to and from the proposed development can be provided, and furthermore, site-generated traffic can be accommodated by the study area intersections. Nicole, do you agree that I have stated what your testimony would be?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm done.
I wanted to see if council had any questions.
I got just one. You mentioned 30 parking spots or clip 28 or whatever it was. Well, with the increase in electric vehicles hitting the road, will any of them be EV charging ready spots?
I don't think we're there yet. I mean, that's going to be a design element. I can tell you that I've been involved in a couple of shopping center area in the area, and it's a lot harder to get that to work than people think, because somebody's got to invest a lot of money, and there's an expected return. And shopping center not far from here, that we went through that, and it's been very difficult to do. Now, having said that, I assume that as we get farther along, we will investigate that, because we're all seeing so much more in terms of electric vehicles. Chris wants to talk, so.
It's increasingly seen as an amenity for our residents. So what we've been doing at the very least is making sure that the panel, there's enough power capacity to serve 1 or 2 charging stations, and then we'll make a decision, as Mark said, later on in the design process, whether we implement that or not.
Yeah, I believe they're called EV ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Follow up. Building off that, I saw the proposal for the green roof, or the plans for the green roof. Are there any other considerations in the design process? I know we're not really fully designed, but I'm curious about environmental sustainability or other sustainable considerations for the building.
Well, I really think we're awful early for that.
Okay.
I think that really ought to wait until we get to the land development plan, because as the agreement of sale provides, a little bit unusual, but we've got to give you building plans also at the land development stage. So I think that it can be better answered at that time.
That's fair. Just bringing it up because we saw about the green roof, and there's the question about the electric cars.
Council, any other questions?
Yeah, I do. I see commercial 1, commercial 2, but I also see like, 1, 2, 3, 4 different doors. Are these each individual commercial spaces, or could this commercial 1 be used by one person?
Yeah, we're looking for maximum flexibility at this stage, so we don't want to limit either one big tenant taking it all or several small tenants. So the way it's set up is, we could demise this even beyond the what might be 4 spaces or 5 spaces right now.
And in the agreement of sale, there are some limitations, because if I remember this, Crandall, do I remember this correctly? You didn't want one big user to come in there and take the whole thing.
Yes.
I think we have some limitations.
Right, okay. And how many total units to start? I think I counted, I just want to make sure.
Say it again.
How many total units? Not commercial, like living units?
Between 117 and 122.
Okay. And based on my experience, I see, 27 parking spaces or 28. How many people do you think might have cars? Because if they don't park here, I guess they got to find parking around? Or I'm thinking about parking. Like, if you had that many units and 30 parking spaces, I'm like, where's people?
I hate to say it this way, but council and the RDA put out this RFP, and we had to comply with the ordinance. The ordinance specifically exempts the town center from parking spaces, from a requirement from parking spaces. And we didn't think that was a great idea. So we have put as many parking spaces in as we can on a piece of ground that's less than, 0.85% of it, or less than 0.8 of an acre. So the simple answer is we've done everything we can to comply with the RFP that was proposed by council and the RDA. Now, somebody said to me the other night when we were at the HARB, and I'm not as familiar, but there apparently are some public parking areas in close proximity to the building.
And I think, to really correct the record there, because the whole point of the downtown development was to maximize the walkability of the city and the proximity to transit. So there's enough density of traffic in Norristown already in terms of and parking spaces that it was anticipated that you would not need, and it was intentional that this would not be a heavy parking. You've got the SEPTA lot, you've got all these other parking facilities that arrangements can be made with to accommodate parking. So it wasn't an oversight or anything that council in those discussions and the team in those discussions overlooked. It was what's driving the need for apartments is not about vehicles. It's about movement.
Let me add.
Yeah.
And also, if we're looking at it as a transit-oriented development,
Right.
this developer has similar developments in Philadelphia where the market they're looking for tends to have folk who really don't drive. Mm-hmm. A lot of the tenants actually don't drive. They use the public system. And that's why
That's what you have in Conshohocken.
That's exactly what it is. So a majority of and if you look at the Luxor, if you look at a lot of those places, most of them don't drive. The millennials in that market tend to be the ones who use the public transportation more.
And from the market standpoint, in terms of the way we run our business, this is very in line with the kind of buildings that we're building and the kind of residents that we're looking for. Just anecdotally, we opened a building last summer of 132 units in Brewerytown neighborhood, and I think there's 30 parking spaces there. So it's a very similar thing. And if you look in the bike room is full, and the parking lot is not always full. So I think it's a very tenable economic thing for us as well.
And then the last thing was it is consistent with council's adopted 2050 plan for reducing our carbon footprint in the municipality. So that was also part of the discussion.
I think since COVID, the need for parking at the county level has gone way down with people working remotely as well. So.
Right.
Yeah, one more last one. Do you have a price range? Like I say, we got 2-bedroom studios and also studios.
I don't. I'm not sure whether. I don't know that we have at this point.
It hasn't been solidified yet, but that's something we can certainly share as the financial modeling proceeds.
All right.
Any further questions from council? See if there's any public comment?
Any public comments? Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the conditional hearing, or do we need something else to do?
No, you can make a motion to close the conditional use hearing, and let me explain the process going forward. So from the close of the public hearing, council, if they want, can deliberate on what they heard tonight and suggest reasonable conditions if that's what they want to do. Or they could make a decision tonight if they wanted to. But within 45 days, we will issue a written decision which would be approved by council and sent to Mr. Kaplan. So those are the parameters of this.
I'll make a motion to close the conditional use hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Guys have it. With that, council, would you like to deliberate on any of these
You can deliberate in private.
Okay,
as well.
not-
It acts, and conditional use is akin to a zoning hearing, if you want.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be now, you have to, we can do it before
45
another
days.
council meeting, or, yeah,
Okay.
whatever.
So we're good. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Mr. Singh, Historical Architectural Review Board of July 2023.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, before you is a request to approve or deny the Historical Architectural Review Board applications which were received, reviewed, and recommended for approval by the HARB for July 2023. As you all know, the Norristown HARB receives applications on a monthly basis for exterior repairs and renovations, new construction, demolition located in Norristown's historic districts. Those applications are reviewed by HARB members to confirm that the repair, renovation work, demolition, new construction is in compliance with our municipal ordinance. The Historical Architectural Review Board has received the applications and have approved, either as submitted or modified, as mentioned on the COAs, the following properties: 129 West Erie Street, 613 Noble Street, 825 DeKalb Street, and the Grand Project at Main and DeKalb. Thank you, Council.
Council, any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the HARB Board of July 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Rebecca Smith.
Aye.
Rashad Bates. Dustin Queenan.
Aye.
Lauren Hughes.
Aye.
Thomas LaPera.
Aye, the ayes have it.
Thank you, Council.
Motion passes. Chief O'Donnell, Resolution 23-53.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Municipal Council. Before you this evening for consideration is Resolution 23-53. It's a resolution adopting the Montgomery County 2022 Hazard Mitigation Plan. A little background on this resolution: it's mostly housekeeping in nature. It's compliant with the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000. It's a presidential declaration. The plan must be updated every 5 years. So housekeeping in nature is Municipal Council every 5 years has to update this plan. The county does most of the legwork through the Montgomery County Planning Commission along with the Montgomery County Department of Public Safety. It's an all hazards plan that addresses most of man-made and natural disasters that occur in our communities that could negatively certainly impact our community. The significance of this, by adopting this plan, makes us eligible, our community, for a federal grant program, whether it's disaster assistance or any other type of federal grants that are issued to communities.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 23-53?
So moved.
Madam Secretary.
Rebecca Smith.
Aye.
Rashad Bates.
Aye.
Dustin Queenan.
Aye.
Lauren Hughes.
Aye.
Thomas LaPera.
Aye, the ayes have it. Resolution passes. Mr. Jones, Resolution 23-54.
Council, thank you, Mr. President. Council Resolution 23-54 is a request to council for a waiver to have food trucks at 1210 Stanford Street, Norristown, which is Von C. And this is in partnership with the municipality to host our first Taste of Norristown event. You've waived this before in other events, specifically at Von C, and it's just for this day.
Council, any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 23-54?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Rebecca Smith.
Aye.
Rashad Bates. Dustin Queenan.
Aye.
Lauren Hughes.
Aye.
Thomas LaPera.
Aye, the ayes have it. Motion passes. Mr. Jones, American Rescue Plan Act funding recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, one slide. I ain't on it. So I wanted to, this is a follow-up to our last discussion about the ARPA recommendations and the disposition of the remaining funds. Based on your last conversation and deliberation about that, you asked staff to come back with a proposal for you to consider. And based on your deliberation direction, we recommend the use of the remaining $7.5 million to be committed as follows. $4 million of it to be allocated toward the new recreation center / Roosevelt Field acquisition as that process unfolds. $2 million of support, budget support, with any savings going toward future CIP projects. As you know, in the past, we've been able to make that calculation, and part of what we've been able to do is replenish fleet of police, codes, and fire as well. $700,000 for blight remediation. As you also know, we had got a grant for $300,000 for blight remediation. We put out a bid for that. We got no takers, even though we sent it to over 100 contractors. So we figured if we would do a really big blight remediation project of $1 million, that it would actually attract bidders. And then this has been a goal of you guys for a long time, to do a massive blight reduction in town. $500,000 for Poli Park, and that's really to reserve for additional contingencies and even park upgrades from the core design, and to just set aside some money for that. $250,000 for contingencies also related to the Crawford Park wall project, which is going to start this month. What we are learning is, as you peel the onion, you find stuff you might not have known that you were going to find. So we wanted to have money for that. $130,000 for the storybook signs project that council had discussed a month back, and this would pay for it for up to 3 parks. And also some additional services for visually impaired in other parks as well. Council had determined that, not because the county is going to make a significant investment in the library, not to allocate any funds for that, so we're not recommending that. I know that that would still 2 other external projects that council had some interest in. I think our research has shown that both of those projects will probably be eligible. I know one of them will definitely, and the other will probably be eligible for funds from the Small Business Assistance Grant Program that we're waiting for the $2 million in funding from the county from their ARPA program, and we would recommend that those projects, should council decide to fund them, be funded from that pool. And this would allocate the rest of the funds, and from what, if council approves this going forward, ultimately as we bring projects to you, you would vote on that specific allocation of funding once we get invoices, et cetera, for those projects.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Any indication when we might get the $2 million?
When you might get this? Well, we've turned in everything that we needed to turn into them. President, Vice President and I were on a call with the chair of the commission about a week ago, and his direction was to his team was significant progress be made by the time we meet for our August meeting, because we met, I think it was in the end of July we met. So I'm hoping, we haven't gotten any word back since we submitted and answered the last group of questions, and I think we answered those questions incredibly compellingly. There shouldn't be any questions. So as soon as I get it, we will broadcast it from the hills.
Yes. Council, any other questions? Seeing none, we don't have to vote on that.
I like, just for the record, that this is just a vote, that this is, you accept these recommendations, and we'll start moving so we can bring things back to you.
Council, do I have a motion that we accept these recommendations?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Jones, Pennsylvania Municipal League.
Yes, Mr. President, the upcoming Pennsylvania Municipal League Leadership Summit is about to happen, and as usual, we always get as do other members of the league, get a solicitation for a voting delegate and an alternate to attend and participate in the conference, particularly in their legislative discussions. They'll be putting together policy recommendations to take forward and lobby on behalf of municipalities with the State Assembly. And so typically the council will choose a delegate and an alternate to go. This year I do plan to attend, so if none of you plan to attend, I can certainly serve as your delegate. If one of you or two of you, I'm certainly willing to serve as an alternate as well. But we need at least one delegate to attend the conference.
Would anybody be interested in attending the conference as a delegate?
When is it again? What's the date again?
Let me put it up again. It should be the first week in October. I think it's the 4th, 5th, 6th.
First week of October?
October 7th. Oh. So it's the 5th through the 8th. It's October 5th through the 8th is the event. And the annual business meeting is October 7th.
I'll make a motion to nominate Dustin Queenan as a voting delegate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Or
Just in case he misses, I'd be happy to be the alternate, so yeah. Okay.
I'll make a motion to make Mr. Jones the alternate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. There you have it.
Thank you, sir.
Department reports. Start out with finance. This fiscal.
Just have a free slide. All right, this is just for, give you an update for where we're sitting as of June. For revenue, we're doing really well with revenue. Real estate taxes, we're on track with our standard, about 84% through June. Act 511, we're doing really well. The EIT is, we had budgeted about over $1 million more than we did the year before, and we're on track to even exceed that. BPT, business privilege tax, we're already $275,000 higher than last year, and we expect to be really good there as well. Real estate transfer tax is also, has almost reached our budget already. Federal grants, we're a little bit low there, but a lot of that is timing. And that's the most exciting stuff with revenue. So we're in good shape, very good shape with revenue. Expenses are boring. We are on track with pretty much everything. There's nothing outstanding. This just gives you where we are by department. And you can see that almost everybody is about 50%, which is where we should be. Debt is very low, but we just pay that towards, it's mostly November, are the largest expenses. So we're on track with expenses as well. That's by department. And the next one is by expense category. As you can see, just like we did with the budget, 76% is basically staffing. And we're right on track. Does anybody have any questions for revenue or expenditures?
No? Thank you very much.
Good news.
Ms. Mansanya.
Thank you, Council President. This time I don't have a vision.
Sixer Stadium's coming here?
You didn't hear about it? Thank you, council members. Tonight I won't give you the visuals, but I'll bring visuals later because not much has changed with what I had presented before. But I'll just give you an update. I trust that you received the email I sent you, just giving you a little update on, so I can update the public on some of these projects that have come along. With the state hospital, as you're aware, we're waiting for the proposals that are to be received on August 25th. I can report that there's been a great deal of interest nationwide. People have been coming through the Developmental Authority. They've been taking tours of the site. So it clearly reached really the audience that we're trying to reach, the big developers with the ability to develop something of that nature. So I can't wait, just as I'm sure you can, to see the proposals that come in. The Maine and DeKalb, you saw tonight where we are with that. They'll be coming back again. So they're on track as well. We also will be submitting an additional application for RCAP just to help with the development of that project. With the Montgomery Park Senior Housing, as you know, there was a third phase. They were delayed, and that's why they went back to the zoning hearing board to request an extension. They tend to use quite a bit of grants from the state, and coupling that together was taking them longer than they could. That's why they went back to the zoning hearing board to ask for an extension. With regard to the first-time home buyers assistance program, we're going to revamp the marketing because we haven't been getting too many requests. It's kind of a good sign because it means people are able to put their down payments and closing costs without assistance. That's not a bad sign at all. So, but we will still try to encourage our first-time home buyers to buy in the developments that are coming, as you know, down the pipe. With the Bear Building, you do know that they're going to have part of the uses is the axe throwing. I still don't. I don't get that. But it's somebody has to explain that to me. But
We'll take
for some reason, alcohol and axe throwing, I don't understand it. But anyhow, they know what they need. So that's continuing. And they will be coming to ask council at some point for outdoor sitting. And we think that's a good idea anyway because it'll complement the firehouse across just to create that buzz. So they will be coming back for that to council. With 257 East Main Street, we have not heard from the developer yet. Last we heard they had sold that development and the new developer is not ready to give his schedule, but when I get the information, I'll certainly share it with council. With the Elmwood Park Zoo, they're moving, and they're moving rapidly. I don't know if any of you have been seeing that they're working on the Welcome Center, and the demand is even growing higher, and we're in negotiations to actually move that additional parking faster in terms of approvals than had been determined before. But right now, what they've done, they're asking to have a bridge that will connect the current zoo right now to the land that's across to be reviewed by our engineer. So that's going on right now as we speak, but they will be coming back for land development for phase 3. But they're moving rapidly. And
is that the bridge across the creek?
Yes,
okay.
yes. So that's good. It's being reviewed by the engineer as we speak. So with Benjamin Court, I think there's some great news. The 5 houses, I think there were 5, right? That were built, that have already been bought. People are living in. In fact, when I was passing by the other day, someone was already barbecuing there, so I suppose that's a good sign too. To the extent that now they're building the second set of houses, permits were issued, they're already up, there's another 5. They're selling for about $415,000, so the values of our properties are going up. That's a very excellent sign. Green Valley Road, they are going through their last comments for the engineer, so that they have to meet the requirements that the engineer had stated, and so they're still in progress. With Fornance, 15 and 17 East Fornance Street, they've completed, and they are now, I think one is under sales agreement, I'm not sure, but they seem to be on par as well, almost $400,000 if I'm not mistaken, so they're doing well as well. 2636 West Wood Street, that's the same developer. Once he finishes that batch, he's going to come for that second one. 820 Thomas Street, we have not heard from the developer yet. We've sent him a couple of emails. I don't know if when he's going to move with that, but I'll report to council as soon as I hear that. Sandy Street, that's 722, that's the apartment building. They received a 1-year extension. They're still doing their due diligence, so they had asked the zoning hearing board for a 1-year extension, and they were granted. With Market Street, that is Stinson Hall, 1651 Market Street, right next to the next to Eisenhower. That's the condominium building. He's going through the last land development agreements and is about to actually he should be sending the information to the engineers, but anyway, I just caught myself at something. Anyhow, the good news there is that when I was speaking to the developer, almost 50% of the people he was marketing to have already signed up. So there's pent-up demand. And he's basically saying, hey, we gotta get this, because I have people ready to buy my units. I know there was a little doubt about condos working there. There shouldn't be any doubt anymore if people are already signing up. He's actually known to be a very good builder, so any development he's done, this is his third in the municipality, he's usually done very well. With Current Terrace, they're also going through the engineer's comments as we speak. Montgomery County Justice Center, it speaks for itself. Hopefully I'll bring some more pictures or images next time for council to see how far they have gone. Kennedy Kenrick High School redevelopment, that's the Sarapac project. It's moving along very well. Actually, demolition permit is going to be issued in a very near future. She should be submitting that demolition permit for the school actually this week. So be prepared to get calls. People say, what's going on? Some folk are just not aware of what's going on, and when they'll see those cranes, you'll be getting calls. So I'm just preparing you. And you'll know, yes, that's part of the development. Yes, they have received approvals, and yes, they can start demolishing once they've met all the criteria from the building department. Because those are the type of calls we get as well. That's where we are. As you know, Markley Street, of course, is completed, the second half. 600 East Fonan Street, you recall you approved the land developments. They're on target. They're also going to be recording their plans as soon as they meet all the engineers' requirements and when the land development agreements are also agreed to. Arch Street, of course we finished phase 1. We're actually in phase 3 right now. We should be going for bidding within the next 2 weeks. So I'll be able to come back and let you know when we'll be breaking ground from, that's Main and Arch going northwards along that. So I'll come and tell you the results of that particular project. That's where I am, but I'll have visuals next time so that you'll at least see a difference and not just the same pictures that I've been sending you. That's what I have for tonight.
Council, any questions? Thank you. Ms. Gennardi, Recreation.
Good evening, Council. I have some quick updates for everybody. As you know, we are in the thick of camp, and you know, we're super busy with camp. We have about 106 kids, and not one of them doesn't show up. They all come every day. It's great. So we are just in the midst of field trips. We're doing things with the fire department. We've had a very successful summer. I've had a lot of positive feedback from parents, and I've had a lot of constructive conversations with parents as well. It's been overall actually a pretty positive experience, especially when there's open communication between the staff and the parents, and that's something that every camp strives for each year, and I think we finally figured that out, so it was good. We have a couple things today. I went and visited Bartash Park and McCann Park. Some of you guys might refer to it as the cut. The equipment was delivered today. Demolition on the existing old equipment at McCann Park started today, so that's demoed. And then today, tomorrow, they're going to work on installation at both of the parks. So I was just there, just kind of making sure everything was there, met the contractors, etc. And people, and especially Bartash, I can say, I can speak for Bartash. They all came out, neighbors were already out, like, is that us, is that for us, is it new, when's it happening? So I'm very excited for them. They've waited a very long time in Norris Hills, the area there. I mean, that was the same equipment that I grew up on when my grandparents lived there, so, and I'm 40, so let's just, you know, so I'm real excited for the residents in that community, so that's moving along. Fall programming, we're going to start rolling that out next week. We have boys and girls and co-ed basketball leagues. We're going to start those, and we will be offering indoor soccer. Concerts, this year, probably one of our best turnouts and best feedback. I actually had sent Kevin something, so I got a couple emails. People are very interested, and they continuously keep going. They love the bands that we've received. It was a rough, that we've scheduled. Thank you. There's the word scheduled. It's been a very long week, guys. That we've scheduled. We've got upwards numbers of like 100 plus people, and they're all throughout the park. Usually everybody kind of squishes up, but now if you step back, people are sitting throughout the entire park. They're using benches. They're bringing all their own chairs. They're out in Harding Boulevard. A lot of people are across the street sitting out, and that's all new. Usually we're not reaching that far out. So I'm real excited about the concerts this year, and we've partnered with Rotation Records, and they've been doing an excellent job of sound production, which we never had before. And I can say we've replaced the outlets on that stage for the first time since I think it was built, and a world of difference. So it's going very well with our concerts. Also, our movie nights, they're picking up pace. We have families come out. We have movies every Thursday night at Elmwood, and I've gotten nothing but positive feedback for that. So right now, that's kind of what we're in. It's the thick of it, with just heavy camp and summer stuff. So that's it for right now.
Council, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Yes.